Hey everyone, welcome back to part 4 of the Lovable series, and in this video we're going to be discussing mainly about the backend and database of Lovable. We'll be talking about the differences between Lovable Cloud and Supabase, and also how to set up authentication for new users, and also email verification. So you want to get new users that sign up to verify their account via email, and then once they click on their email link they then get redirected to the application. And then we'll also be talking about some of the features inside Lovable Cloud, such as analytics, security, edge functions, storage. So let's dive in. So here's our project that we started, and if you click on this cloud up here, this is essentially what is called as Lovable Cloud. Now before this, Lovable would rely on Supabase for all the backend features, and now they seem to have built their own backends and cloud system. So for this specific project we've enabled Lovable Cloud, and in here you can see that there we'll have our databases. So this is where we'll be storing user information and also, let's say, the PRD documents that are generated. So any information or data that we want to display and we want it to persist, we will have to save it in a database. So there's also a users tab here, and you can see here we can actually monitor the signups in the past 7 to 90 days. You can also add users via email here if you just click on send invitation, and also if you click on auth settings, you can see here by default the phone and Google sign-in methods are disabled. So that's essentially if you just want to sign into the app via your phone or your Google account. And by default we've got email enabled, and I'll be showing you later how to do email. You also have the option to prevent new users from signing up by toggling this button here, and also you can allow anonymous users to sign in. So in storage here, if you click on new bucket, you'll be able to create a new bucket, and you can also prompt the agent here on the left here to actually create a bucket. So let's just go ahead and create a bucket, and what we'll do is essentially we can use this to upload PDFs, images, video, and let me just give you a quick example. So if I click on the bucket, I'm just going to upload an image right now, and I'll click on upload, and then I just essentially took a screenshot of my school community, and then I'll open this and it will upload it to the bucket. So let's say if you want to display anything from the bucket on the front end, what we can do is we can just click on the name of the image, and then I'll just say here in the chat feature here, please display the image in my test bucket image name, and we just provided the name of the image on the landing page. Now this is just mainly to show everyone that you can reference these files uploaded using their name and then just display them wherever you want on your application. So you can see that it's impeding us from displaying the image, so because the bucket is private, so we'll need to make it public, and we'll just click on allow here. Okay, so it says that it's completed, however it's not actually showing the image anywhere. So I'll just prompt it again and say I still don't see the image, and then let's just specify the image name again. And again, as I mentioned before, you always want to be hyper specific in your prompts. On the landing page, please display it under the chat feature, which is this feature here. Okay, perfect. We can now see that an image of my school community is being displayed under the chat feature, and let's just revert back to the previous prompt, and I want to undo this. So that's storage, and then edge functions. Now I wouldn't worry too much about edge functions. So essentially what these are let's say if you want to, well, in my scenario, I'm generating text using ChatGPT, I'd assume. And you can see here when I asked Lovable to add that feature, it created an edge function called generate PRD. And you can see here that we can click on view code. Now you don't really have to know anything about this. You can see here that we didn't even have to add our own API key, because I'm pretty sure Lovable, they use their own API keys when it comes to some of the large language models that we can use in our app. So yeah, it's basically just created a script to communicate with ChatGPT to then generate the text when I asked it, for example, to create a PRD document for a dating app. It is using this script to call ChatGPT and say, hey, Zach has asked for a PRD for this specific application. And then ChatGPT will give a response back that is then displayed on the front end. So that is what this script is for. You don't really have to worry too much about this. It also tells you how many times it's been invoked or called. So yesterday we used this quite a few times. So yeah, 2 times we used it yesterday and there were no issues. So yeah, that's it for edge functions. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Now for AI here, you can see here that we have not added our own API key because Lovable has essentially said, you don't have to worry about that. We'll give you our own API key, and right now we're going to be using the Gemini 2.5 Flash model here. So you can see we made a total of 4 requests yesterday when creating our PRD documents. Now I do want to see if we can actually change the model. Now let me just prompt it, and I'll select the chat feature and say, how can I change the default LM model as it's currently using Gemini 2.5 Flash. However, I'd like to choose another model. Let's say if you want to go for a Claude model or a model that's slightly more affordable, like some of the ChatGPT mini models. Okay, so it looks like Lovable has recommended a default model of Gemini 2.5 Flash, and it's given us the option here to select these different models. And in the previous edge function that I showed you, the generate PRD edge function, in there it will specify this model in the actual code. Now you don't have to go into the script or code to actually change it. You can just prompt Lovable here on the left, and you can actually click on one of these here, or you can specify the model here. So I'm just to keep it simple, I'm just going to say let's use GPT-5 mini for now because it's one of the more affordable ones. Oh, and we can see it's created a prompt here, and I would have expected it to done it by default, but let's just click enter, and we'll then verify that the actual model has been updated. Well, first of all, let's see that it's actually using Gemini 2.5. If you go in here and we go and click on view code, now it looks like it's already changed it, but it was using Gemini 2.5 before. So you can see here, model GPT-5 mini, but you don't have to worry about this too much. And that's mainly just if you want to use LLMs that are more affordable, or let's say if you want to use a better reasoning model, you have the option to choose one of these. Now, I do want to show you something else, which is, let's say for example, you don't want to use one of these models, and you want to use one of the Claude models, which doesn't seem to be provided here as one of the defaults. Well then, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to connect Claude using a API key, and then we can use that to generate our PRD text. So let's just write Claude API key. Okay, we've managed to log into Claude. Let's just go to the console here and click on, so we're just in platform.claude.com and then dashboard, and we'll just click on get API key. So I already have an API key here, and let me see if I can already copy it. Nope, I can re-enable it, but I'm just going to create a new API key, and we'll just do test. Add that in, and then we're going to copy this key. I will disable this after this key, and let me just prompt Lovable, I want to use Claude, allow me to add the API key, or let's just ask it, how can I add the Claude API key? I'd then like to update the generate PRD edge function to use a specific Claude model. So you can see here it's given us a secure way of pasting in the API key. So we'll just go in here and paste it in and click submit, and you'll now see in Lovable Cloud in our backend, in the secrets, it's going to add our Claude API key. So let me just refresh the page, and then I'll click on secrets, and there it is, Anthropic API key. So let's switch to a Claude model, and it gave us actually the option to switch here, and it's suggesting to use this model, which I think is a reasoning model. I'm not entirely sure, but let's just go ahead and click on switch to Claude API. Now please use a Claude model for the PRD generator edge function. Then what will happen is in our edge function, you'll see that it will update the code to use a Claude model instead of one of OpenAI's models. So yeah, you can see here it's already changed to the Anthropic API key, which is Claude, and yeah, it's using Claude Sonnet now. So yeah, that's just a way to add API keys into your Lovable project. And again, these are API keys for large language models. However, they can be API keys for anything, such as a text-to-speech feature on 11 Labs, or even if you're wanting to do social analytics. So yeah, it's just a good to know. So we've now covered the AI feature here and also secrets. Now you can also just delete your secrets here. You can also add a secret here. However, if you do add a secret in here, it will have to be the correct secret name. So for example, if it were, let's say, Claude API key, I don't think it would work. So you can actually prompt the agent here on the left and ask it, what is the correct name for adding a Claude API key in the secrets section here? And then you just paste in the value here. So I'm going to disable this API key right now. You do not want your API keys to be exposed. And yeah, let's just go ahead and disable the API key. And then I'm going to revert back to using one of the Gemini models, or actually revert back to using the Gemini model. Next thing we'll discuss is the logs. Now, you don't really have to know too much about logs, but it's just essentially, it will provide you with an activity log of everything that is happening in the application. So if there's invocations of an edge function, if you're calling the OpenAI API, and it will provide you information of whether that was successful or not in here. However, keep in mind that the Lovable agent can read these logs, and you don't really have to do anything because the Lovable agent will already scan all of this when you're, let's say, debugging an issue. So you don't really have to do anything. Now, there are other features such as the analytics, security, speed, and design. I will discuss this later, but for now, this is it for Lovable Cloud. And yeah, I will also discuss Supabase. Now, obviously for this project, we've enabled Lovable Cloud, and you cannot go and move over to Supabase in the same project unless you do a bit of migration scripts. However, I don't recommend that for non-technical people, as you do need someone that has a bit of technical expertise to do this. Now, the good thing also about using Lovable Cloud is that if you want to transfer this specific project with the entire front end and back end to a new Lovable account, all you really have to do is just click on settings and then click on the transfer here, and then you'll select a workspace that you've been invited to by another Lovable account, and then you just confirm transfer, and your entire front end and back end of the Lovable project will be moved into that new workspace. So that's the benefit also of using Lovable Cloud, whereas with Supabase it can be a bit trickier. Now, just quickly, I've got another project here, so I'm going to show you how to connect Supabase, because once you've connected Lovable Cloud, you cannot move back to Supabase. But just quickly, for Lovable Cloud, now if you want to monitor your costs, you just go to settings and then cloud and AI balance. And you can also spin up different sizes of instances. However, if you're just creating a very small proof of concept, I wouldn't worry too much about this. Now, if you click on here, integrations, and then Supabase, we just click on enabled here. You can then click on connect to project. However, first of all, you will have to connect your Supabase organization with your Lovable account. Once you've done that, you can just select one of the projects inside that organization. So let's have a look at what Supabase actually looks like. Now, when we first sign up, you can see here that it's asking us to create a new organization, and we'll just stick with the free plan for now, and we'll just click create organization. And yeah, just for the database password, I recommend you just generate a random password, copy this and save it somewhere. And then for the region, you want to pick the region that's closest to you, and you don't have to worry about these two for now, and then just click on create new project. Now you can see here you have a lot more control over the back end, and there are also a lot more features, so this might be a bit overwhelming for people that are non-technical. So that is why I do recommend you stick with Lovable Cloud, also because it's all in one platform. However, this does provide more features and obviously more complexity. So you can see here in the table editor, this is where all your tables and databases will be. And yeah, I wouldn't worry about too much about all of this. And then authentication, it will just show you the users that have registered on the application in here. You can also add a user up here on the top right. However, again, I wouldn't worry too much about this, but again, you can just see it will give you more control over the application. And then storage, which is the same concept that we explained in Lovable Cloud. And there's also an analytics page here, and S3 storage, and your edge functions, and also secrets here. which is the same type of secrets that we discussed in Lovable Cloud, and edge functions, that's also the same. So, and then you have your logs here. And then if we click on the organization here, we also have the option to invite members in team here, and you can just click on invite member and invite via their email. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about Supabase. Again, I do recommend you use Lovable Cloud if you're non-technical. If you do have somebody technical, then you can use Supabase. You can see that it just provides more features and more control over the project. So yeah. Now, the next thing we're going to discuss is adding authentication into our application. And by that, I specifically mean users signing up and verifying via email, and then being able to log in after their account is verified. So we'll just go ahead and say, please add user authentication on the home page. And then what we'll do is we'll just make it so that they have to log in to use this chat feature here, and make it so users need to be logged in to use the chat feature in the home page. Okay, so it looks like it's asking us if we want to store any user profile data. Let's just click on no for now. We can add this in later and we'll just submit. Now you can see here it's added a sign-in feature. However, ideally, I didn't want it to have the sign in continue button here. Like ideally, a user should have entered the text of the app that they wanted to create a PRD document of, and then once they clicked enter, it would then prompt them to sign in. So let me just specify this. Please remove the sign in to continue button in the home page's chat feature. Instead, have the previous chat box, and when the user if a user is not signed in, then prompt them to sign in, and do not invoke the edge function to generate a PRD. So just go ahead and click enter. Okay, let's go ahead and test this. So this is to dating app, and then we'll click enter, and it should prompt us to sign in. Okay, please sign in to generate PRDs. That's fine. I mean, it's not the most visual. It's not the most visual thing. I mean, it's not really super visible, but that's fine. Let's just click and sign in, and because we don't have an account, let's just click and sign up, and I'll just do my email and password. And obviously, of course, if you want it to be slightly more secure, you can ask it to have, let's say, an uppercase or a symbol in the password. You can prompt this easily, but for now, let's just keep it simple. Okay, so it looks like I'm signed in right now, and let's just do our PRD, generate, and then it should generate this. And let's also verify that, yeah, the user has been saved here. So we have our first user, and we will later do email verification for every new user that signs up. But for now, at least we know that we can add users. So let's go back to our app, and yeah, it looks like it's added this image. Let's use our visual edit and just specify that this image should no longer display anywhere in the application. However, we now know that it works, and you have to be signed in. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to verify users by sending them an email, and once they click on a link, then it will redirect them to the app and they will be able to sign up. So let's just specify that in Lovable. Now for new users that sign up, let's add email verification, and I just want to make sure that the redirect URL when they click on the link in their email inbox is correct. So I just want to ask it, what will be the email redirect link, or where will users be redirected to when they click on the sign up email in their inbox. Let's just click enter. Because right now we're not using a live domain, we're just using the domains that Lovable has provided when we publish the app. So it's this domain right here. We will have to update this, click on update to update the changes. Yeah, it's now asking us to what page we would like users to be redirected to. I think ideally there should be a sign up page, sign up page or sign in. Let's just do login. I think that makes more sense. So let's click on next and submit, because we should have our login page here in auth, so it will be auth. Okay, now let's just publish our app so it's up to date, and let's go ahead and does it give us the option to log out? Sign out, and then we'll sign up as a new user, and I'll just use another email address for this. And I'll click on create account, and you can see it's not signed us in. So as you can see, we received our email, our sign up email, PRD perfect. It's even added a subject to the email, which is confirm your sign up, PRD perfect. That's quite cool. Now we can also customize this in resend. So let's just click on verify email, and then it should redirect us to the auth page. There we go. So it's redirected us, and let's try and sign in now, and it works. Perfect. And you can see we're signed in. So that's it for part 4. In part 5, we will be discussing integrations. So we will be discussing how to add Stripe into your application and also resend for customizing emails. We'll then also discuss quickly MCPs, and because they're very powerful if you use them correctly. So I'll see you in part 5.